r/datingoverthirty. On a throw _1234 says, are expectations of sex on the third date still a thing? I have to admit truly I thought that was just an overblown trope or something just talked about in sitcoms. I've been out of the dating world for years though. Telling friends about a guy I invited over for dinner this week, they totally roasted me and said it was going to seem like a seduction date both because I was cooking and that it was the third date LMAO. Cooking is just a hobby for me. I cook for friends or with friends most weekends, so I didn't think anything of it. To what extent is this still a thing? Edits. He knows my interest isn't platonic, we've kissed. And I also have no issue being direct and did already bring it up to him as hey not that kind of date, just realized it may have come off that way. I was more interested in a meta discussion of how common this belief is lol. Fat Distanster says, I think it's still a thing, but you should feel the desire to have sex on the first and second dates because you are so attracted to them. You can't just muddle through 2 dates and then expect sex on the third because you got to #3. Mrajasan 2024 says, I guess it just depends. The last person I dated, I never had sex with her despite going on about 5 dates with her. I think we kind of wanted to when I went over to her apartment, but her sister was there the whole time so nothing came of it. If I was with the right person I guess I could sleep with them on the first date, but it would have to depend on how strong of a connection I feel with the person or not. Creature 81 says, I think that an invitation back to a place is an invitation for sex, but I also think that if a third date has happened without an explicit conversation about timing for sex or sexual acts, then that's the time to have that convo. There's no hard and fast rules on timing, but there should be a convo so nobody is led on or feels pressured. SidCutB01 says, the title is sad. I'm sad for this generation. Manitoba Balboa says, how do people feel comfortable having sex with just about everyone they ever have a third date with? Are people completely unafraid of STDs? All of these third dates add up, and yes, I'm aware of condoms and testing. Neither is foolproof. I'm willing to bet that well under 5% of people on the dating market in the US have ever been tested for herpes. In every other country, even less. Accurate_influence 85 says, if someone asks me out on a date where food is the main thing, we are not doing sex after. If by a third date I haven't felt like having sex with this person, it probably won't happen. Revolutionary Mix 448 says, no, because it puts unnecessary pressure on the evening. Sex should come natural at the right time. I think the third date is the time when you should be able to tell if he or she is someone you're going to try it with. r/datingoverthirty. Dazzlinger Conthassery 6 says, moving in together. Hi. Looking for some advice and feedback on my current situation. I've been with my boyfriend for 9 months now, and things are going really well. We love each other and have a lot of fun together. I'm 33 and he's 39, and we are aligned on future goals, both want marriage and kids. I feel like I'm ready for us to move in together in the next few months. We spend 5 to 6 nights a week together, get along great with each other's friends/families, and have taken several trips together. We have discussed future plans and have a few trips on the calendar for next year, but we haven't discussed relationship timelines and I want to start having those discussions. I also feel like at this point I know enough about him to know that I want to give it a real shot, but also, if things aren't going to work out with us living together, I'd rather know that sooner rather than later. We are both financially stable, and I own my own place. He rents, so this would not be a money-driven decision. My questions are, is it too soon to start having these discussions? It doesn't feel like it given our ages, goals, and how much time we spend together, but I also don't want to jump the gun and make him feel like I'm pressuring him Ideally, we'd start planning for living together now and then actually move in around the 1 year mark. Is there anything you wish you'd known, discussed, etc. before deciding to move in with a partner? Neither of us has ever lived with a partner before. Any suggestions for how to bring this up gently? I can be blunt, and, again, I don't want him to feel pressured. That said, if our timelines for moving and / next steps are very misaligned, then I want to know that now, and I'll need to think seriously about whether to continue with the relationship. Thanks in. Icelandstatierfmind21 says, my BF and I moved in at 10 months and it's been awesome, going on almost 2 years now, definitely not too soon at all, especially 30 plus. Started as a timeline convo, without any definitive date in mind. Honestly, we kinda just dove into it. We had a bunch of concerns going into it given that we'd both been single and living alone most of our lives. But with that also comes the fact that we know what we wanted. Personally, I'm glad we didn't hammer out more than just the very crucial basics, how we'll split rent / expenses, expectations for cleanliness, etc. It's been a ton of fun discovering each other's quirks and habits. This absurd folks says, look, I think you are both definitely old enough to make this move. What are you waiting for? Fish or cut bait, that's all I have, and one. Aro and Bone says, my boyfriend and I have just passed 10 months together, and I moved into his apartment 2 months ago, so we were 8 months. We started talking about living together around the 6-month mark. He owns his apartment, and I was having a lot of trouble finding a rental. He was the one who suggested it. A few questions / things to consider before living together. Have the unsexy talk regarding finances and expectations. Since my BF owns his apartment, we discussed the best way for me to fairly contribute. As there are tax / property ownership implications if I pay for specific house related things like bills, council / strata fees, the mortgage, etc. We agreed that he would continue paying for those directly and instead I pay a weekly rent, significantly under market value, into his offset account. We take turns with groceries, but we are planning to open a joint account soon. I told him to seek financial advice before committing to or agreeing to any arrangement, and I highly recommend you do the same given you're the property owner. It's important to be across de facto laws, as unfun as it is. Setting expectations with finances before you move in together will save you from any awkward / uncomfortable situations later on. Talk about expectations and division of chores / labor. I know it's very common for couples to take equal turns with everything, but my experience has taught me that this can breed resentment and frustration, especially if there is a difference in cleanliness expectations. Cleaning the bathroom to one person might mean spending 2 hours bleaching and scrubbing, but to someone else it might be just 20 minutes of wiping surfaces. You won't know all of your differences until you live together, but discussing and agreeing on a system beforehand is worth it. Personally, I think dividing chores equitably is a more functional system than aiming for exact equality. This means dividing chores based on what you're each good at and enjoy doing. I hate cooking, so my BF mostly cooks, and I do the dishes every night. He hates laundry, but I love it, so I happily do everything involved with laundry. We both hate vacuuming, so we got a robot vacuum lol. Just make sure, when you're divvying up chores, that you don't end up with a disproportionate number of everyday chores like dishes, cooking etc. while most of his chores are fortnightly or monthly, like mowing the lawn or paying bills. It helps to list everything out by category, daily, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, then sit down and split things up in a way that feels fair for both of you. Having specific assigned jobs also keeps both parties accountable for their obligations and prevents misunderstandings. Discuss your routines. What time do you both start work, and who will have first shower? What happens if one of you goes through a period of working late nights / early mornings? Will you have 2 bedrooms to avoid disturbing the other? What is your night/morning routine like, and what time do you sleep/wake up? How will you make time for personal hobbies and alone time? Do you prefer to keep the home as a quiet space, or do you like hosting frequent dinner parties etc? How many nights a week will you have date nights, and how will you keep the romance alive/avoid slipping into housemate mode? How will you resolve major disagreements? There are some things that come up when you live together that you will fundamentally disagree on, such as furniture or decor, upgrades/renovations, etc. Discuss how you'll weigh up and compromise on disagreements. Remember that you're a team, it's us versus the problem, not me versus you. These are the main things I think are important to discuss and consider. But before you even get to the points above, just ask him what his plan is for when his lease ends, and if he's open to discussing moving in together. No need to overthink, just take the first step by starting the conversation. Good luck. Inatali Incognito says, I'm 33 and he's 39, and we are aligned on future goals, both want marriage and kids. I'm surprised that given the ages involved, and the goals involved, that no timeline discussions have been had prior to this. I would have wanted to know, prior to 9mths, if timelines were different, considering I don't feel either party in this scenario can really afford to be wasting time unnecessarily. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.